Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, and this is going to be my review for Episode 5 of this season, otherwise entitled Return of the Mac. And that episode title was a bit weird, but when it gets to the end of the episode, or towards the end, it has a nice little ring to it, so yeah, I forgive it for that. But obviously, before we get into the rest of the video, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you have not watched the episode, go check it out, then come back to this video later on. Now, last episode of Legends of Tomorrow was its own little contained episode back in the 1980s, and it was a very nice episode. I did think it was one of the best Legends of Tomorrow episodes that we've had, even though it wasn't necessarily vital to the overlying or the big story for this season. But we kick off this episode by going to London in 1895, might I say, where there's supposed vampires attacking just people in the streets, which is a bit weird. Now, one part I did like about this opening is that Rip Hunter was dressed like Jack the Ripper, who was obviously the big serial killer back then in London in, I think, the 1880s, I think. I think I'm correct in saying that. And if you don't know why I think it's funny, because get it, Rip, Jack the Ripper. Am I the only one getting that? But speaking of vampires from earlier on, we actually do have Mick, Rory or Heatwave reading Dracula, and the reason that this is funny is, I guess, because it just shows that Mick is a bit obsessed with vampires, but also Dominic Purcell, who plays Mick, actually played Dracula in Blade Trinity, the movie, so I don't know if a lot of you guys knew that, but yeah, there's a little Easter egg if you want to call it that. Now, actually going into this episode, I wasn't expecting it to be so heavy in regards to the big plot for this season. I thought it was just going to be sort of maybe like another episode as to last one, where it's just like an adventure in the past, but it did play a big part in the big story for this season. And one of the things that we really learn more about in this episode is Mullis, who is the big villain for this season. We actually do hear him. They actually did reveal the guy that's playing his voice earlier today. So that's the voice of Mullis. So when he actually makes his physical appearance, which I don't think they'll do till later on, because I think he might be CGI, I'm not too sure. But yeah, so we're mainly going to hear his voice rather than seeing his physical being. But Rip actually finally tells the legends. We heard him tell Agent Sharp, I think her name is, back in episode 1, but now he's actually revealing to the legends about Mullis, because in this episode Rip had been, sort of betraying the Time Bureau and going out on his own to try and prove that Mullis is actually real. Now, the people that are sort of working for the big lying plan to bring Mullis back into the scheme of things actually take Nate, and we find out that Stein's great-great-grandfather, I think his name was Henry Stein, I think it might be correct, is involved in it. And I thought that was just funny, it looked exactly like Stein, but with a little whippy mustache, so that was pretty funny. But we do find out that they're actually trying to bring back a person that we are familiar with on not only Legends of Tomorrow, but if you watch Arrow as well, just the Arrowverse as a whole, and that is Damien Darhk. He's in there, and we're like, okay, what the hell? So he's in the process of being revived. It's about flowing blood into him and other stuff like that, and also waiting for the red moon, or whatever it's called, the blood moon, the lunar eclipse. They're waiting for that to happen. Now, they don't actually say it in the episode, and what I'm talking about here is the last name of the lady that's in this episode, or the girl. They just say her name's Eleanor. Now, this is actually Eleanor Darhk. This is Damien Darhk's daughter. So they haven't actually, they didn't say Eleanor Darhk, so I don't know if they're just going to expected people to know that, or they're probably going to reveal that in episodes to come. But that's Eleanor Darhk, Damien Darhk's daughter, and that's why they started to hold hands towards the end of it. I thought she might have said dad or something like that in this episode. I don't think she did. If she did, let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure she didn't. We just saw her get possessed by Mullis on 2 different occasions, which I thought was pretty cool, and I'm excited to see what they do with that character going forward. Now, we did see Eleanor get possessed by Mullis in a conduit session, if you want to call that, speaking to the dead. And we find out that Zari actually left her brother for dead. So Zari was blaming other people, when in turn her and her brother were in trouble, and she ran away and just left her brother for dead. So Zari's obviously living with that burden, which I'm sure they'll explore later on in this season. But we finally do get Damien Darhk being reborn, which I think we all knew was going to come this episode once we saw him in that coffin sort of thing. Now, it was pretty funny when he, looked at his wrist and couldn't find his watch, because what had happened in this episode, obviously, is that they had different fingerprints. They even had Oliver Queen's on there. I'm assuming that's from when he killed Damien Darhk. I don't know. But they do get Curtis's help, or Curtis Holt, or Mr. Terrific from Arrow, to help in that. So this sort of got spoiled, because at the beginning of the episode I did see Echo Kellum, who plays Curtis on Arrow, down the bottom. So I was like, okay, well, he's obviously going to be making a little cameo appearance in this episode. But that fight scene after Damien Darhk comes back to life, that with like Return to the Mac, that's the actual song playing in the background. I thought that was hilarious, just like him, beating people and choking people and doing stupid things to the beat of the song was hilarious, and I think that's fitting that the title of the episode was Return of the Mac. Now, in this fight scene, we also do get like sort of the proper debut, if you want to call it that, of the new White Canary suit. We had seen it last episode, I'm pretty sure, the Halloween episode when they go trick-or-treating, but it's literally on screen for like 10 seconds at the most. So this was the proper debut because we actually saw her fighting in it. And even last episode, you have to look at it in a lot of detail, because if you looked at it from a distance, it would still look like the old one from last season and even season 1 with the sleeves. So yeah, this is the proper debut of that new White Canary suit, and I think it looks pretty badass. Now, one big thing going on in this episode was around Firestorm, which started at the end of last episode when Jax asks Ray to help him sort of split Firestorm. So once again, this was sort of another excuse to not use Firestorm in an episode, but I think it makes sense for what they're going for in the longer run. But I was surprised that even though they went through a lot in the episode, at the end of the episode, they just go, okay, send it back to normal. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with Firestorm going forward, because we know that Victor Garber, who plays Martin Stein, is leaving the show. So I don't know what they're going to do, because there is only a couple of episodes before that happens in the show. So yeah, they better hurry up and get that going, because I really don't want one of them to die to be the reason that Firestorm has gone off the show. So hopefully they figure out a more non-deadly solution. But then we finish off the episode with Sarah actually dobbing in Rip Hunter to the Time Bureau, which just like it shows that Sarah is pretty cold at this moment. Now, this could be another reason that's just to how to have Rip Hunter off the show for a bit, because as we know, we had him in episode 1, didn't have him at all until episode 5 now. So they're just I think that's what they're doing. They're just not having too much Rip. So there's excuses put in. So obviously he'll go back to the Time Bureau after being dobbed in, and then in a couple of episodes, the Legends might need Rip or something like that. Or maybe Rip, gets out of that situation by being good and redeems himself at the Time Bureau and is able to go on other missions. We'll have to wait and see. But I think Rip is going to be central to the Mullis stuff, because he knows a lot, or knows a decent amount about him at least. So I think he's essential for the Legends learning more about Mullis, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so it just shows that Sarah's a bit of a hard ass now, but I think that's just an excuse to have Rip off the show without having to do too much effort. Like really, they can just say, oh, the Time Bureau's got him, and that's about it. But overall, as I said, I was not expecting this episode to be so central to the season-long plot. It's almost similar to episode 3 of The Flash this season, where I thought it was just going to be that typical, you could say, filler episode, or just fun singular story episode, but it had much more in this episode than I thought it would, and I thought it was a lot of fun. The vampire stuff, especially with Mick, just using all of his vampire knowledge, or attempting to at least, was really, really funny. Obviously, in the previous episodes, we'd had Kawasa brought back to life and, play a role, and now we have Damien Darhk, so it will be interesting to see what role he has, and you've seen how powerful he is. He's basically got the powers that he had in Arrow Season 4, but it doesn't seem like he needs to, recharge himself with the totem and stuff like that, which means he is overpowered as hell, and I don't know how the Legends are going to deal with him. The issue with having Damien Darhk is because he's so powerful, it becomes unbelievable that he doesn't kill people. We saw how easily he was killing the Time Bureau's agents. Why didn't he kill any of the Legends? So there's a bit of unbelievability there, and hopefully they find a way to make sense of that and not make it annoying. But yeah, that's the only issue surrounding Damien Darhk, because I think he's actually a really good character. I just don't think Arrow Season 4 knew how to use him, but in Legends Season 2 I thought he was awesome. And then obviously the Firestorm stuff, which I'm assuming, as I said, we're going to see more of it play out in the episodes to come. It's going to be interesting. As I said, we know something's going to happen there, and I thought they weren't going to just give up at the end of this episode, but let's see what they do in the next couple of episodes to come, leading up to the crossover and the episode after that. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support for the video and the channel as a whole. Let me know in the comments section down below what was your favorite part of the episode, what didn't you like. Just give me a little summation of what you're thinking of this episode in the comments section down below. It'd be awesome. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.